I'm your host, Chris Drager, flying aboard the Green Dragon in search of those hidden clues in plain sight. Come join me on the Great Dragon Express.
Good evening, everybody. How you guys all doing tonight? Hey, I know there's a bunch of you that were going to be here Sunday night to watch, and I had some technical difficulties and didn't get this program started. Or I did. It apparently didn't air like I thought it did. So anyway, we're going to kick this thing off. I got a few people I got to shout out to and stuff. Um, anyway, first things first. For my first podcast for live, I guess I can't complain. I got 44 viewers, so that's not too bad. Um, I got a couple people that they sent emojis. That was pretty cool. So I'll shout out to them first. The first emoji, it was a wow, that was pretty cool. And that was from a longtime friend of mine, Teresa Fuchs. How you doing out there, Teresa? Hope you're tuned in and watching. The next one that sent me an emoji was a heart emoji, and that was really cool. And that was Ben Petrie. And of course, that's my cousin. And hope he's tuned back in and watching. And thanks again for the heart, Ben. I appreciate it. And I appreciate anybody that's viewing. And then I've got some thumbs up people. Hey, we'll give a shout out to all those people. First person is going to be James Blowers. Thanks, James, for the thumbs up. Appreciate it. I got Kyra Ripley. She gave me a thumbs up watching. Thank you very much, Kyra. Got Lori Tower. She gave me a thumbs up. Hope all you guys are watching, and thank you very much for the thumbs up. We got Heidi Morrison. She gave me a thumbs up and watching. That's cool. I appreciate it. Got Marianne. Kate Atkinson. I said that wrong. I apologize. But anyway, Marianne, I appreciate everybody coming here and watching and giving me thumbs up. I really do. So anyway, we need to kick this thing off, make up for the lost time. I did have somebody that was asking questions on the last cast because they were wondering about the liquid and what I was showing and explaining. I guess I didn't go into detail enough on the last one, and that's pretty okay. I don't mind going back at all, so that's what I did. I went back, and for those of you that didn't catch my last podcast, I want to say right now that I appreciate you joining, and started out reading out of the Bible and the book of Genesis and seeing if there's anything that fits together. As I let people know last time, I'm treating literature as real. The stuff written in it was real. You got a German science guy that went out and decided to prove that Troy was real, so he took the book, The Iliad, which I have and have read, and it's a great read. He actually found Troy by using that book. So then you have to wonder about what else is real in that literature. Sure, people like to blow things up to make it sound good and be entertaining, but there's things in the Bible that would relate to that because you got giants, you got Hercules, you got men of renown. And think about Troy. Let's see, who was in Troy? Oh, that's right, Achilles, which is where he met his fate. And think, his name lasts and lives today in infamy. So anyway, he got shot with an arrow in his Achilles tendon after they left a Trojan horse outside Oh, hey, isn't there something behind that? Oh, that's right. Beware those strangers bearing gifts. Kind of like our government. Should beware those bearing gifts to us. Hmm. For all of you, I got my hot chocolate. I hope you guys got your drinks and smoke them if you got them. And again, I want to welcome you to the Arm of DRAGA podcast. This is your host, Chris Drager, and please enjoy tonight's viewing and see where it goes. I got a few things to show you, and we're going to go over and we'll see how it goes. I got to answer Teresa's questions. Um, she's saying I didn't have the yin yang symbol up last time when it was talking about the splitting of day and night and how I related it. And well, I now have that symbol up, and as you can see how it divides, it's a perfect symbol for what reads in Genesis about the division between light and dark. You got the greater light and the lesser light. And of course, you know, the yin yang, or actually I should say it's yang and yin. You got male energy, active, light, dominating, strong, movement, hot, oh, should put my glasses on so I could read. Expanding, of course, that's a good one. And then, of course, the yin is the female side of this energy too, you know, and it's got a dark side. Feminine, the female can be very beautiful and nice. You know, look at Earth, very beautiful and nice. It's one of the most gorgeous things out there in the world is the world itself. And it also has a dark side, you know. That's what we're going to be talking about, you know. We're going to get into stuff like what's here in my Google Pro map right here on this. It's the Earth. And what we're looking at here, we'll get to that. But right now we got to get back to Teresa's question about the water and how the separating of water and all that is what I need to answer questions to. So I'm going to see if I can find my Wikipedia. Oh, there it is. Well, in reading the Bible, you have God said, "Let there be firmament in the midst of the water, and let it divide the waters from the waters." And in the third podcast, I was going over that and how there is water in the upper atmosphere, or what we call space. I was showing how there's astronauts in space and there's bubbles coming out of suits while they're doing spacewalks, and that's kind of fascinating. And you can check that out on the prior podcast. Basically, you could say that let's go down here on this flat Earth model down here, and you know, Kennedy Space Center, they take off. Of course, you know they have to roll and rotate, but that's because this thin barrier, which is water, has to be exited at a certain degree and angle, which is, if I recall, when Apollo was going, they had to return and also go out as a 2-degree angle. Otherwise, they'd skip off and go back out into space and get lost. But they've been playing with water on the International Space Station. And, you know, you got proponents of flat Earth, globe. Well, most of us personally can't prove either one. But there is some cool stuff to take a look at. Now, I want you to take a look at this. This is the International Space Station, and they're playing with water. And look how it's a globe automatically. It takes a sphere shape, which should remind you that life is circular. Everything out there has a circular structure, and it has everything to do with it. there's a beginning, end, there's no end, no begin. It just keeps going. You see how they add color? Well, you know, the firmament was dark, so we were on a water planet before there was any solids here. And you can see how it moves around, and because it's moving, which would indicate to me that we would have to notice that if that's the case, if we are encased with the water, or like I was saying in the last podcast, you know, an terrarium basically, where we have this thin shell, you know, like an egg, hard-boiled egg. You peel it, and there's that real thin membrane. That's probably what I would say you're looking at that way. And let's just say for fact that this is telling you for a fact what's what. Just like I said about that book, I want to take literature and throw a little bit more fact into it and see what happens when we pose facts to it and see if there's any evidence to back it up. And that's what we're here to do. At least that's what I'm here to do, and I hope you join me for the ride. Here's a cool thing. Teresa was asking me about, well, firmament, solid. It's how can solid be in a liquid? Well, they do show stuff like that in space. Why don't you take a look at this real quick? I believe this is... Oh, hey, got one of those ads. Yeah, hey, you're watching DRAGA Podcast. Your host, Chris Drager, right here. If they're going to advertise, so am I. I produce everything, so if there's mistakes that don't look good, hey, it's all on me. It's the way it goes. I'm trying to do this all by myself, so that didn't take me where I wanted to go. See how they're playing with water? Check this out.
What does the view look like from inside a water bubble?
And this is where I'm going to show you, this is where I'm going to show Teresa how solid can be inside a ball of water. And there's even air bubbles. Oh. They're playing with the camera if you're not sure what I'm showing. But they got a camera that they stick in the bubble of water in space, which is spherical. It's holding a sphere. It's round. So that gives us a round, why the Earth is round, floating in the void of space. See, check it out. And there's air bubbles in that. Isn't that cool? I mean, that's really cool. And why can we pass through that with the spaceship, or the kind of things they show that have to go through that barrier? The designs that's required has to be like a needle, you know, a syringe style. That, you know, think about that rocket that took Apollo up, you know, basically it was shaped basically like a syringe, with the point having a very point on it, which is how they were able to go through that thin barrier. Now watch, look at that, see how they're playing with the water and how it envelops, and that's water in space. So yeah, we are theoretically round. I'll stop that for a minute. I'm going to go back here to the firmament. Now you think about that. There's this really thin membrane. And inside here we've got, at least down here anyway, you got 14.7 psi. Remember I was saying that in my last podcast, because we have pressure, air pressure, you know. And if you really think about that, that makes sense, having air pressure in here. And if you think about this as being something pliable, think about, like, what is it, the Houston Astrodome that has the inflatable roof, or one of them places that the, you know, let's watch the idiots play sports in. It's held up by air pressure. Well, I'd have to say the same principle applies here where we live, same thing. I believe looking at the evidence material I've read, I would say, yeah, we have air pressure holding up our really delicate thin layer. And like it shows here, when you look up firmament in Wikipedia, upper sea of the firmament, waters above the firmament. And of course here they're showing it's spherical, the pillars of earth. Of course there is one problem with this pillars of earth, is because in the book it's for like a stool. Basically literature says that it kind of resembles something like that, but more like a stool with 4 pillars, and that sits at the feet of God's abode. So it's for his feet to rest on and sit there and watch us, like how we watch things in an aquarium. Yeah, must be having fun up there. Oh, somebody's coming through. Hey, Lori's coming through. I don't know what she's coming through for, but it's amazing what water can do in space, and that's why I was going back to it for Teresa, just to get back to that moment and the whole premise of how there can be something solid coming out of water, and how this was a water planet holding a round ball shape.
Pardon me, Facebook.
Yeah, I know, Facebook. You're trying to let me know somebody's sent me something. But anyway, hopefully this cast is going out good and solid. I'm not sure, but I can only hope that it is. I can take a peek and see that it's actually doing something. Come on, move for me, please. Thank you. Yeah, it's going live. Just had to make a look-see to make sure I'm flowing, because yesterday it was not doing that for me. And I sat here the whole time and I'm trying to duplicate that. That ain't happening. But anyway, hopefully, Teresa, I answered your question about the water and the solid mass and how it would come to be. Now remember, we're still on a ball of water. There's more water here on this planet than there is actual land. And there's quite a bit of land when you look at our size. It kind of reminds me of a movie I watched with John Belushi, Animal House, and a couple students are with the teacher and they're in the bathroom and they're talking about how there could be a universe within my fingernail, just like and bigger or smaller, which kind of makes sense. It's funnier that I saw a clip of Bill Nye the Science Guy pretty much making the same premise as, I would say he was actually saying it word for word almost what they were saying in that bathroom scene. That's too funny. Of course, he is an actor. It's just like me sitting here. I don't know the answers, but I'm going to look at some things that I've read in books, and I'm going to show the clues that I see, and I'm going to point them out to people. And hey, if you agree, cool. If not, hey, it's cool. You can let me know either way. I mean, it's fine if you disagree. I'm good either way. If you do disagree, don't think I'm right, all you have to do is take the time to prove me 100% wrong. Don't just say I'm wrong. Actually come up with proof, evidence. Throw it out there, show it. Just don't say it. I was in the Bible the last podcast, and of course all the frustrations get going. Let's see if we can actually pick the pace up of this thing, because I got a lot to show, and try not to run it as long as I did the first podcast. I gotta see. Let's get back to where we were originally, where I left off. Oh yeah, it's talking about Adam and Eve and what's available to eat in the Garden of Eden. and the fact that they're told they can eat anything. And back in the day, like blackberries, you could go eat those way back before the incident and not get pricked trying to get food. It was easily and accessible. And that's another thing in the story too. This stuff grew, was alive and growing, and with the first pair of people that were made, according to the book, there was nobody to work the land but it hadn't rained or anything, but the vegetation grew enough to create a mist, a fog, moisture, kind of like what a terrarium does, and start creating a system that works. I mean, it pretty much says that in there, which is really cool. So science and the book go hand in hand, basically, when you look at the premise of it. So, hey, why not keep it factual? It did happen. Remember, I consider the Bible a history book, not a fortune-telling book. This thing tells you what happened to Atlantis, basically. If you take all the material that's out there in book form, you'll find a lot of crossover. And there's stuff that predate the Bible, but the Bible borrows. So it's just too bad the certain factors out there decided to use it for a tool against people instead of actually getting them to really understand it. That's why I like my antique Bible, because it actually tells you how to read it, when to start reading it, how long it'll take to read it. The woman said unto the serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, which meant eat of everything, but the tree of life and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. The serpent, or we could call it the reptilian race, the shapeshifters, whatever you'd like to call whatever. I mean, I'll let you guys call it whatever. It says serpent. Could be a snake. Doesn't say a snake. It says serpent. There's a lot of versions of serpent out there. I mean, a dragon can be a serpent. So there's a lot of variances when you just say serpent. That's why I say it could be reptilian. I mean, they have found little trinkets and archaeological digs that look like heads of reptilians with breasts and baby holding it and giving it food. It's kind of an interesting thing to see, and I think there's been TV programming that once in a while try to show you a little hidden truth right in front of you. Think about the land of the lost. Like when I was a kid, there was a program called that. It had pyramids in it. The people fell back in time, supposedly. And all of a sudden they're somewhere, and they show the pyramids, but they also show futuristic electronics, dinosaurs, which we'll get into the dinosaurs. I got a good one for you on that one. And, the reptilian. The slee stacks. Yep. And what's funny is I believe a lot of the stories and stuff, watching movies and reading, are based off of Bible stories. But I mean, look, The Walking Dead. Okay, well, it talks about that in the Bible towards the end. How the dead will be walking right with the living. Excuse me on that. I apologize for that. And I'm not talking future tense because, like I said, this is a history book, but humans repeat history over and over. The question is, are we going to get cleansed by fire this time or water this time? What was the last time? I believe it was water was the last one. So this time it's going to be by fire. So those of us that live closer to water will be better off than those up higher up. At least that's what material says. But we know that the serpent told Eve to go ahead and eat, and you can touch it, you won't die, even though God said you will die if you do partake of this tree, this particular thing that'll give you wisdom, which is funny. Something that'll give you wisdom. Nope, wrong context. There's our wisdom givers right there, folks. You know, and what's really funny is I realized that that's in Willy Wonka, the first one in the 70s, when you walk in the candy room. There is one of these in there. Now imagine this being the very center tree, not like what we see today. Think before, when the dinosaurs lived, and this stuff was prehistoric large. You know, think about the Center of the Earth movie, and they showed the big fungi that was huge, like huge, huge trees. So, very colorful. You can partake of it. It can kill you. You can survive, and it can open your eyes and make you very aware. And they've tested and know this stuff at this point at college level for sure. And so do the Native Americans, and any tribal people definitely will tell you this, or ayahuasca, or just depends on what part of the world you live in, depends on what they use. You know, it's like Moses talking to the burning bush, you know. When you look at the kind of plant it is, does it have the ability to give off psychoactive and help things along? Most likely. The world's full of that. And of course, you know, the Bible says that God knew the day and hour that Adam and Eve would eat from that tree. And of course, the woman saw the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eye, and a tree to be desired to make one wise. She took of the fruit thereof, and did eat, and gave also unto her husband with her. So right there, he was with her. She didn't go alone. They were together. And he did partake. And once they did, you know, all of a sudden their eyes were both wide open. And that's where I get at the fact that Jesus didn't heal a physical blind man, right? He couldn't see. He was seeing like this. The blind man was this kind of blind man. We got a lot of those people today we call sheeple. They see focused like a racehorse, where they can't see anything outside because the distraction will keep them from winning that goal. Straight ahead only. And then they knew they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves. That's the other thing, where this story takes place is in the Middle East. I mean, Northwest Indians have their own legends and stories about world flood, population, all the bad things that were happening, bad people. You know, the Native Americans right here close, they cut down one of the largest cedar trees they could find, took the whole tribe and community to make the canoe. And what did they do? They took it, they talked about it, knew that something was coming. They knew ahead of time, just like in Noah's Ark and other stories. Somehow the people knew, and I believe that's because, like in this story, that I want to tell you right now that I believe Revelations has more to do with Atlantis and the pre-Stone Age. Or I won't even, we'll talk, not pre-Stone, Stone Age people. You know the Flintstones? The dinosaurs that helped build the pyramids? You know, people don't even talk about that fact that, yeah, manpower did build the pyramids. Bible says so. Used slavery to help do it. But the thing is just like today, we use animals all the time to help us achieve tasks. Well, not so much anymore now that we've got gas-powered machinery and machinery to do it. But, think about an elephant that can pick up this huge trunk that takes about 10 guys to pick up, and it can take its nose, grab that sucker, and move it, no problem. So you guys chew on that minute for the dinosaurs helping build the pyramids. When you really think about it, and I'm going to show some evidence that it all goes together. We're talking prehistory. We're not ape. We didn't come from apes to cavemen. We are survivors of this last big event. Every single person that's alive today is a survivor, somebody that survived, either from Noah's clan, from the Native American clan, from whatever clan. I'd say there's probably 12 different clans, 12 different race of people that survived, very small pockets. And here we are today. Like King Solomon said, nothing new under the sun. Why is that? Well, that's because we repeat ourselves over and over and over again. It's kind of amazing what we do. Oh yeah, might as well get to it right now. These are reliefs that were, they were dug up and found in Egypt, carved in Egypt. They got animals on them. I don't know if any of you are paying attention or looking, but it looks like a long-necked dinosaur to me. Those really big ones that eat vegetation that are like one of the largest of the dinosaurs. So if you can imagine using one of those docile, because they're always deemed to us as docile. Oh, that's right. Forgive me, I know they died before humans were here, according to our scholars that want to tell us the way to think. But if they were here before humans, why would humans even do something like this? That means they seen it. It's a little prehistory right there. Prehistory. And after the corruption happened in the garden, you end up with the story of how the sons of God came down, saw how Adam and Eve produced some people finally, and people were populating, and they saw women and said, hey, they look good, went down, left their bonds, which their bonds, I'm going to say, was above the water, this out here in the other water, the outer space water. Because, yeah, there's outer space water. I should be wearing my glasses. Oh, and while I'm thinking about it, why I'm looking this up is because I lost something, but they're not showing it. Even though I typed it in, NASA explains water bubbles in space because, oh, here it is. Let's pull it up. You'll love this. Water in space. Watch for the bubbles. They're in outer space doing a spacewalk. And all of a sudden you'll see a water bubble. It's kind of funny. And that's why I say there's liquid on the outside of us. You guys see the bubbles? If not, there's plenty of material out there where you can see bubbles leaving their spacesuit. How one spacewalk had to be canceled because of water leaking in the spacesuit. Now, they asked him to taste it. Now, I understand why they asked him to taste it. It was because if it was the water to keep him warm inside his suit, it would have been fresh water. But if it was cold salt water, it was this water, because the space station, I believe, is floating in this right here, and in water. That's why they train in water, and that's why it's zero gravity and why they get pulled off here. And obviously, because we sit in zero gravity, water holds a sphere. But after the Nephilim came down, or the fallen angels we should call them, you know, they made it with the humans and created hybrids. And them hybrids came along and became heroes. You know, we're talking the giants too. There was giants here that talks about. So if there was giants here, well, doesn't that include dinosaurs and all living things that have been proven to be here at a certain time? I know. Before humans, there was lots of stuff. But let's just say the oxygen level before 13,000 years ago was much higher than it is today because of an event that happened about 12,500 years ago. You know, think about breaching that right there, that water, and having super cool air drawn in as it blasts a hole because something from out there comes in. That's why I say the story of Atlantis is actually basically the story in Revelation. You know, the end of what happens gets totally wiped out. Just think. Troy's real. So is Achilles real? He was a semi-god born to a earth woman and a god, supposedly, and never got beat in battles until he got to Troy. And of course, he saw a woman that he fell for, and even though he snuck in that Trojan horse and was there to battle, he was still there. He was more focused at this time for the woman instead of battling. And when he saw her, you know, that's when they got the chance to shoot him in his Achilles tendon. You know, it's amazing that that name lives today. So it must be something to it. Otherwise, why would stuff like that be around today? There's really no reason for it. There's a lot of stuff that's around today. Look at Paul Bunyan. And you know, if there was giants, there was giant trees. It's just take it for face value. They were here. Even though we don't like to admit it or be taught that. But then these people grew. They taught humans fire, metallurgy. It says so in all this. It says what, who came from who and who taught, It's just like depending on what clan you came from in here, you got people that came that are musically inclined because it was taught. And that's just people that come out of this line. It's in the Bible that you should read. Don't take my word for it. Read it. But I think it's cool because let's get to this one here. Got that facing north, this facing north. This was an advanced civilization that controlled the world population. The megalithic structures around the world pertain from this place all the way around the world. I think, just on the material I've read, there's plenty of material to read, plenty of evidence. And they had a huge Navy fleet. That's what's kind of weird when you really think about it. They had a huge Army and Navy fleet. And they lived on this island, had mountains to the north, forests, lake, another forest with lake, river that came down and cut the island in two, and then also cut and went down right into that harbor area that had the locks in it that was all rings, and the access to the main Atlantic. I can't believe people don't believe this. It's kind of funny, I think, that it's been put in myth, all because we can't find it. But I think that evidence is in our face, and the technology is allowing us to see the evidence. I believe that if somebody would finance it, I'd be more than happy to take some kind of device down here, which I think is this. There's a temple that was on this part of land, but there's nothing here. But this ridge line right here, and I'm speculating, don't mind you, but remember, I'm going by what Plato said, or not what Plato said, but that literature is true. Shut this one up. Atlantis, the deluge and the end of the Ice Age, 12,500 years ago, when all the megafauna that even science today admits that, well, the megafauna of North disappeared right in this time frame. Well, we'll just say that all megafauna of all sorts of size disappeared, except for small stuff. And then the oxygen got depleted when something large entered our atmosphere. Maybe more than one object at this time set off this catastrophe. Just like that volcano. Old Earth's waking up, starting to talk. I guarantee it. But anyway, let's get back to this. This ridge line, this right here, the Azores Islands, which are populated. These are the mountaintops, I believe. Right in here. Just a little tiny section of the mountaintops are all that's left. The island that was up here, yeah, they're gone. Because it's right on, there's a piece of right here sticking up. And here I'm going to bring this back up here like this. Shrink it down. And you'll see what I'm talking about. I believe that that's the ring. This is the temple of Poseidon. Or, well, what's left of it. Same thing with the ringed harbor. And where that forest was, well, looking at this, see this curvature right here on this map, right up here. And then the river. Well, I say that that's this ridge line right here, where that river used to be, which had been cutting into the ground. This area here is where that forest and some mountains were. I'd lay money that if they were to take and do drill core samples, they'd come up with wood, preserved wood down in this debris. I'd like to take some diving apparatus and go down right here. This would be cool to excavate, I think. But it's in such deep water, kind of like the Titanic, that I don't know how easy it'd be, but I bet you if you went down in here, you'd find evidence of what used to be this right here. This. And why do I say that? Well, like I said, literature I'm taking for fact. Literature, taking for fact. Plato. Okay, Plato says that Atlantis sat outside the Pillars of Hercules, which we know is the Strait of Gibraltar. So, again, as you can see, north. That means east is that way. So what we'll do is we'll head due east. Okay? See what happens when we head due east. Oh, don't see, man. Oh, look at that. Due east. You see what I see? There's the Strait of Gibraltar right where the hand is. And see, it talks about coming out. There's some islands that you could stop off at before getting to Atlantis. And of course, on the other side of Atlantis, if we do this right, oh, well, there's the North American continent, the tip of it, right there. And then, of course, the rest of it. And like Plato in his writings, not just the 2 books, he wrote 2 books that has this in it. Herodotus does too. But I'd lay everything that right here is Atlantis. Right in front of our visual sight. Which brings us to something else. Oh, hey, you know what? This is a good time for this, I believe.
Is everybody in?
Everybody in. Everybody in. Ceremony is about to begin.
Let me tell you about heartache and the loss of God. Wandering in hopeless night. Out here in the firmament, there are no stars. Out here we stand in
Riders on the storm. Riders on the storm. Into this world we're born. Into this world we're born. Like a man without a morning, after out alone. Riders on the storm. Oh no. Anyway. Here's something that I want to bring up real quick.
It's so funny to me.
And this is the Jimmy Dore show.
Right?
But just take a minute and let's check this out.
Person. He's a guy who announces cage fighting and smokes pot. Okay? Okay? And the reason why he gets 200 million downloads a month is because nobody trusts the fucking media anymore. That's why.
That's right. You can't trust any media.
That's still pretty good. 8 million is still pretty good. It's 8 million more than advertising. So somebody says that they can't.
What did I do to my show? Oh no. Sorry about that. See, doing this myself, it's easy to mess it up. Yeah, and Bill Gates, watch a TED Talk by him and his vaccines. This guy's dangerous. Alright, Jimmy, you took my stuff. What'd you do with it?
Joe Rogan today. That's fun,
sorry about that, guys. Here we are, we're back at it. This is important. I want to show you guys something. This is really important.
Yeah, and they start talking about Joe Biden got the jab on TV, the booster. And watch this.
Every year, maybe you go out and you get your flu shot. It didn't mean you weren't going to come down with the flu that season. It just would be maybe a little bit better, right?
Yes.
And so, but now.
But this COVID thing was
Yeah.
sold in a different way.
Yes.
It was not
Yes.
sold that you're going to get COVID, but it won't be that bad. Like Fauci was literally on TV saying,
I want to say I
you
got
won't get
sick
it and you won't spread it to
during
anybody.
this time.
Both those things are
No
happening.
vaccine, no mask.
That's not the part of the conversation that they.
Natural immunity.
Isn't that
Took
interesting?
natural product
That's not the
and
part.
got over it in
That
3
they've been
days.
Telling you two different stories
That's me.
about the vaccine or
And you
three
can
different
ask
stories. That's not the
Teresa
part.
Fuchs, she can tell you I was
Mask
sick,
yesterday,
but I
getting
got
the
over
booster.
it.
So,
You think you got a booster? You think that was a real booster?
you mentioned that before we started talking, and I
Watch.
hadn't thought about it, but
I stopped it, paused. We're going to take and evaluate this real carefully. Now watch.
yeah,
Oh, there's the syringe. And this is AOC, mind you, who is not a certified nurse, not certified to be giving injections of any kind. I was a caregiver. I couldn't do it. Hospice had to come in and give certain things because it had to be by a certified nurse. And that's the same case with this stuff. But if you look at that, there's no needle on that. I'm going to go a little further here.
you know what?
Let me back it up just a skosh.
Thought about it before, but you know what?
Okay. I want to stop right there. That's the deal for the plunger. That's the end of the syringe. And that's the end of the syringe right there. Now, I don't know what is on the end here, but there's no needle on the end of this syringe whatsoever. I've looked at it, totally looked at it. And I'm going to tell you what, it ain't real at all. There's no needle. I hate needles. I despise them like you can't believe. Even if I needed a shot, you'd have to hog tie me just to get a shot in me. But there's no needle on the end of that. That's what's important about this. This is staged, phony. He ain't getting no vaccine. He's selling you down the fucking river.
I watched it on TV. When I watched
And did you see that? Did you guys see that? Did you see how AOC moved the needle around? I know there's plenty of you who have gotten shots that when a needle's that far buried in you, if they wiggle it around, you don't want them to move that son of a bitch around at all. It hurts like a motherfucker. And if you didn't see it, let's back up just a hair.
Okay, when I watched it,
Oops, not far enough. Let me back up just a little bit more. Watch how much she moves
and I
this
hadn't thought
thing.
about it before, but you know what? When I
No, there's no needle. Okay.
watched it,
Now watch how much she moves it around.
Oh.
See how she dropped it like that? Okay, if that was actually in his arm, he would fucking move. He wouldn't allow that. I wouldn't allow. Most people wouldn't allow. Would say something to the doctor if they move the syringe that much.
on TV.
And there's nothing in
I
it.
watched it.
And you see how quickly that was come out? There was no coming out. It was just...
You know,
Again,
getting this
AOC's
shot.
not certified to know the anatomy. You know, when you look at the ones they show on TV with the needle, I gotta say this, they show it with the needle, and if you're not certified and don't know anatomy, then stick it up here and you don't get it in the right place, you're gonna stick the bone, not get it in the muscle tissue. These people are gaming the world, and it's time to wake up. There's some more. Does everybody remember the college professor
Hello
that
from Canada.
lost his position here at Evergreen State because of the fucking stupid kids that think that they know more than people that have been around? I know we did when we were kids, but come on, to give them control? This guy lost his livelihood because of what happened there. And you guys should hear this because this has to do with Canada. And of course, you know, look at what's happening to Australia. It's coming here soon. Real soon. That's why I'm speeding up my podcast instead of going through the material like I was going to. Exactly. I'll get back to the Atlantis and how the Earth moved and tilted and everything went bye-bye. And how we're pretty much at that doorstep again. So Mother Nature's going to take charge because nobody else is taking charge. And that's what's happened last time. But here, I want you guys to listen to this.
I'm sure you're aware of the insanity we are going through. I feel like Canada is one of the test territories for the global plan. Am I just paranoid? Am I losing it? Do you still think there's a way out of this? Thank you so much from the you guys are punk rock guy, which you are.
Yeah, there are ways out of this. We are going to have to stand up. We're going to have to rise up against these officials who, whatever the explanation, are completely botching the response to the
Now, I
pandemic.
know there's a
They're putting
bunch
us
of
in
you
great
that
deal
know
of
me
danger, not just
and have
us,
known
but
me a
our
long
children.
time. I told you that we had to
And,
do this
Yeah, Canada.
when I came back from
is ahead of the
Arizona.
US. Australia
And
appears
pretty
to be
soon
ahead
you're
of
going to
the
know
US
what the
in terms of
roundabouts are for.
tyrannical
And I'm going to make a
nonsense.
video about
And,
that and
you know,
throw it up on the
US
cast.
has
There's a
not
bunch
yet
of stuff
played
I'm
its
going
role
to
in
be
becoming
putting
part of
up.
the resistance,
It's going to
but
take time.
really it's all tied up
I've
in
already
there.
been out here doing
I
this
think
now. We're on here
fundamental
now
difference
almost
between
an
this and,
hour.
Prior
the first
outbreaks
one I
of
went
tyranny is that
an hour.
this one's global in some
Okay, I've
sense.
been on here an hour.
The resistance movement has to be as well. And anyway, don't give up hope. Yes, we are we are going to find ourselves in battle, and it's one that we have to win.
Next question.
Have
The
to win.
situation is deteriorating fast in Canada. Is it futile to think we can still live our lives without being vaccinated? What will it take to break the fear spell? Thank you both very much. We missed you.
Well,
I At one level, the fact that the vaccines aren't doing any of the things they were supposed to do at some point should get noticed by someone, but it doesn't seem to be getting noticed.
No, but it's worse. It's worse, right?
Well,
The evidence is actually mounting that these vaccines make you more likely to contract the disease. The idea that that has not caused our governments to say, wait a second, hold on with the vaccines. Something has changed. Let us figure out what it is. We'll be back to you in a minute, right? That's what a rational government would do. The fact that it was like, nope, hey, the advice we gave you just so happens to still be the right advice. In fact, even though, in fact, it's obviously upside down,
Right.
that tells you, whoa, I can't afford to listen to that person. If that person tells me to ingest something, I ought to wonder if it's a poison, right?
Trojan
So-
horse
Right.
at the door, boys
Can
and
you
girls,
continue to
ladies
live
and gentlemen.
unvaccinated?
The Trojan
Look,
horse
I'm
showed
not
up,
advising you to do
and
anything, but I would
tons of
say
people went running
government
towards it.
has betrayed you, and it has
And
failed.
you know what
to
happened
do
to
what it
Troy when
promised it to do.
they let
If
the
you
Trojan
think
horse
that
in?
failure is on people who have not complied, then look into Gibraltar. Right? The fact is, their one remedy does not work. So, in light of that, can you afford to take their advice and just grin and bear it? How many times will they force you to be boosted? Right? They are exposing you to danger each time they do that.
I'm here. I
In
have
some
pulmonary
sense, as
edema.
appalling as what is
High
going to happen
risk.
to you if you resist is,
I'm still alive
how
and
appalling is
kicking,
what's
and
gonna happen
don't
to you if you
follow
don't
these
resist. You don't know. It could be
motherfuckers.
10 years from
They're
now, you find
lying.
out the answer to that
Please
question. So
take a
I would
stand
just-
against
Your feet
this.
and die on your knees.
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Listen,
You want to repeat that? I
Please.
think it broke up with Skype.
Oh, it's better to live on your feet than to die on your knees. This from the old man in the whorehouse in Catch 22, an excerpt that we read from
got that?
some weeks ago.
Yeah,
Dan,
it's the right answer.
don't kneel.
You know, I
Those
think I
that
owe
kneel
anybody an apology, but I feel
end
like
up in
offering
bad
one.
ways. Bible
I'm
says
sorry it's
so
that stark,
because it happened
right?
in the
I'm
past.
sorry that that's where we are in history, and that means that you have to make some awful choice, but that's the nature of history.
Yes. So I hope you hear. Hope you're still watching and listening. I hope I haven't chased you completely away. But it's time to do something. In a big way. Which here we are. We're going to go back to Atlantis here. And zoom out. Because there's old maps that'll show this. Yes, I have the world tilted. But when it went bye-bye and things took away the ice cap, found whale bones in this desert way back, which is ocean sand. That when the tsunami came across this, it took the sand and debris and it washed across. Oh, hey, look, it happens to coincide where Noah's ark was. And it tapers off. The sand tapers off as you head around. If you can see in the Gobi Desert, you see how it tapers off? You see how it has flow look to it because it flowed. Came right across there. That's why the pyramids that are over here were buried, and the Sphinx buried up to its neck, which today they've moved. Guarantee there's remnants of places underneath here. Old maps show lakes and stuff and towns and stuff that were across here way long time ago. And I wrote about some things, but look at, you got anomalies. And here's something else I will point out is this fracture line right here, and then the Nazca Peru's right within this area right here in the Nazca lines. Well, if you go out this way, Easter Island's right out in here. And if you keep going around the globe, that's the other thing that's cool about this. You keep going around in a certain direction, which I believe was our original equator. You know, right now we sit like this. That's how we sit. Just think if we actually sat more like this, Antarctic wasn't at the bottom. And you take all the megalithic structures around this particular line and equate the Earth in this fashion, like this. You know, they found stuff in Antarctic that shows that it was warmer, nicer, and all that. So there's we'll take that as the original equator going this way. And of course, if you come across everything that was on both sides of the equator on this line are megalithic structures. Atlantis not that far off of this line either, and neither's Egypt, which, you know, comes right through. Everything built on both sides of this equatorial line. You know, get down here close enough, you kind of see names of where we're at. There's Taiwan, see? There's China. You know, I kind of wonder if they built the big wall to keep the dinosaurs on one side and people on the other side. There's the things, and the giants on one side. Earth's full of anomalies, evidence of some major movements and stuff. Where stuff changed, definitely. But as you're coming across here, there's Fiji, right? Remember what I was telling you about this, what I consider the original equator. There's the French Polynesian Islands. And the French Polynesian. Keep coming along on this line right here. Okay, I lost it. But it's such a small island, it's so hard to find. I should have pinned it, but it's on this, it follows this line. I think, if I remember correctly. Papua New Guinea. See, there's Peru. And Nazca, Peru's right here. Instead of this being up here where we are now. And I wrote some material which I'll bring up in the next episode, because I'll leave off with this view right here. Whoa, hey, stop. See how easy that did that? But imagine at the equatorial line, is something like that. And you see this gouge in the land right here in our old planet. And you see these bends right here on both sides and the U shape here. I want to say that at one time, my theory is that this was connected, and that's why Magellan had to go through here and sail through, because he couldn't get through here his map unless this was still full of ice, and ice was covering this at the time he went. He had to, because there's a map in the 1500, in the Reese Pierce map, it shows connected. But at one time, these two were connected. Something blew through here. Now, my theory is that when it did this, this is why Antarctic's staying in perpetual cold. Why the 60-degree parallel is you go on the Nose-Goddard ocean currents, and you'll see this current. It's like a river that goes around Antarctic this whole time. It's non-stop. That's why passing that 60th parallel, and why it's so nasty right here, is because the narrowing here makes it flow even, gives it velocity. But something came in here, hit the old planet, and then knocked it. So it ended up like that, and put us in our current position. And so if you see how I had us, that's why where we live today was under ice originally, I believe. It was actually, Washington was right like that, sitting up here. Wasn't much anything but water. Atlantic was much over here, so it was not getting the effects like it does today. That's my theory, and I'm going to go over it some more on the movements. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. I enjoyed doing the podcast. Just remember, don't trust our government. We need to start standing and being like this guy right back here on my wall, a pirate. Don't you guys think so? Time to be a pirate? I think it's time to be a pirate. But I think it's also time to call this cast over and done with for tonight. I've been on here quite a while, and if any of you have hung with me, I really appreciate it. I know there's moments I was probably boring as fuck, and again, no filter, and I hope I got a message across to anybody listening. But anyway, I'm going to wish you all a good night. I look forward to doing another cast and filling in some more blanks for you. So anyway, this is the Arm of DRAGA podcast. This is your host, Chris Drager. You guys peace out. Take care. Have a great evening.
I'm your host, Chris Drager, flying aboard the Green Dragon in search of those hidden clues in plain sight. Come join me on the Great Dragon Express.